Hello and welcome to my short film about how to fit the parking brake or emergency brake or handbrake cable to a 1956 Mercury. Now in my case, when I got the car, there's actually no handbrake handle, let alone cable. What I did find in the trunk is the actual handbrake handle assembly. So I've got this bracket here which goes underneath the dash, and obviously the handle with the teeth on it. But there's clearly something missing from there, and also the cable, or what's left of it, is actually snapped. So I've got to work out what's missing, get the bits, and see about fitting it. Right, so after lots of detective work, what's missing is called the parking pawl, P-A-W-L, and that's the little kind of tooth thing that goes in there, which is sprung loaded. So that's what's missing. So after a bit of internet trawling, I managed to find this Mercury General Parts Depot card on eBay with 3 of these parking with the pawls attached to it, and then from Dennis Carpenter, that's actually the spring that holds it in place. I've not worked out how they go in there yet. That's the next thing. Turns out that this pawl is the same as on 64 to 66 F100 pickups, 60 T-Birds and 52 to 58 Fords. So yeah, it's obviously sort of reasonably standard Ford bit. So that's that, and I've also got from Dennis Carpenter the handbrake cable. Right, let's have a look at the cable, or what's left of it in situ. This is the bit we're replacing. We're right underneath at the moment. This is a cross member, the rear gearbox cross member. So the gearbox is just out of sight here. So this is the cable that goes up to the ratchet handle on the dashboard. As you pull the handle, pulls this lever, and that goes in turn to both back wheels. So here we've got an adjuster. There's a sort of half moon sort of adjuster nut there, which we'll have to take off. To this bracket here, there's a little spring clip we have to pop out, to drop out there, and then bolt-on clip there, and that runs up to the firewall. And I'll show you where it goes inside the car. Right, and here we are inside the car, under the dash, and here is, get this bit of carpet out of the way, is the top of the cable, and you can see it's all frayed. That's where it's snapped. There should be a kind of a ball on the end, which connects onto the handbrake ratchet, and we've got a couple of, there's a bracket with a couple of bolts just here. So we'll start off by undoing the bracket that's on the firewall. Right, pull this out a bit. This bracket at the end here is sort of crimped onto the cable, and it's a little bit rusted up, so I've had to, with a pair of pliers, just sort of open it up a little bit. That's it. Now hopefully I can then poke this through the hole. Right, it's time to take off the half moon nut at the end. So I've got some mole grips holding the end of the cable. That's it. That's it. There we go. There we go. That's the clip off. cable goes through, and it's like a sort of keyhole slot. Undo this little front clip. That's it. Right, so we've got the two cables alongside each other. So from this end, obviously that's the old one. This end's the same, that's fine. We go around. Is more or less the same, still works. In so much as this is held in with that horseshoe clip, which also works at that end. That's fine. Move along. We've got that little bracket which I've got to open up and put onto the new cable. You notice the old cable is actually plastic coated, whereas the new one isn't, which is a shame, but there you go, not to worry. And right down the other end, and things are a little different. This is the rubber bung that goes through the floor. That's a new cable, and obviously that's the end, the ball there that fits into the handbrake handle, the end of the handle with the ratchet on. This is obviously what's happened. The end's snapped off. The difference being is on the old one, this bracket that I had to bend off and sort of unscrew from the end held the cable in place. The new one doesn't have that. It has this system, which will be held in place through the floor with one of these clips through there. So it'll do the same, I hope. Right, back onto the handbrake handle assembly. The goodness, a good old clean up, de-rust and a coat of satin black. Let's put all the bits back in now. So there's the new spring. You have to play around, work out which way it goes. Then the pull goes in, that holds the spring in position. It's got the one edge is pointed, it's got like the tooth, and the other end sort of blunt. And that pops in over the spring through the spring and into the other side. Right, that's in. It's very, very difficult to describe because it's so small and fiddly, but it's there's only a few ways it can go in, and it's sadly trial and error. Got a pulley to put back in. I'm going to put a little bit of grease just around there. I don't think there's a particular way it goes in. That's it. And one with a clip. That's it. Right, that's moving nicely. And then into the handle. I've given the handle a good polish up, and it's come up really well actually. I have to push the pull down in with the handle, in theory. There, turn. It's working well. So in the ends of the handle, there's this little kind of groove with a sprung loaded bit here. That is where the ball at the end of the cable is going to fit. Well, here we are back onto the dashboard. This end bit's been causing me quite a lot of problems really. It's just not working the way this system is supposed to fix this end of the cable to the car. What this needs actually to be fixed to the floor, because what's happening is as you pull the handbrake handle,
and therefore pulling the cable up. Instead of just pulling the cable, it's actually pulling the whole outer sleeve with it, and obviously it's fouling on this little pulley. The idea, this is actually supposed to be fixed here in position. The other end of the cable is obviously fixed to the bracket with a horseshoe clip on the rear gearbox cross member. So the outer sleeve is supposed to be fixed at both ends, and the sleeve, the cable is basically pulled through. But there's no way to fix this to the floor. If this ring here was bigger than the actual hole, it means that it would, you could push it through, it wouldn't come through anymore, and then this R clip here would then prevent it from going back through, so therefore that would hold it in position. But that's just not the case. The original cable, as I said, had this crimped onto the end and then bolted to those two holes, which was much better. I've come up with, I think, the solution, and that would be to try and cut this end off here, so we just got the cable and the outer sleeve, and then crimp this back over the outer sleeve, because the outer sleeve is the same diameter as the original, which would make the whole cable exactly as per the original. This is the only real difference. Right, here's my little explanation of what I was trying to say earlier on. If we imagine this is the brake cable, this is the outer sleeve, and that's the inner cable. This is the back of the car. This would be attached to the rear gearbox cross member with a horseshoe clip, so it's firmly attached. The front should be attached with this to the floor, which then allows the cable, as you pull the handle, it pulls the other end and actually pulls the cable and then off to the two back wheels, thus applying your brake. What's actually happening now is the back is well fixed, front isn't fixed at all. So as you're pulling the emergency brake or handbrake handle, instead of just doing that, it's actually pulling the whole thing. And because the cable is long and not rigid like this, it's flexible as it is here, and you've got quite a big bend on it, it's just pulling it straight. You've got quite a bit of slack, and that's all that's happening. So we'll see how well this cuts with my trusty Dremel. Do is the same thing right on the opposite side, so that it might sort of come apart into two with any luck. Bingo. It's not too hot to touch. That's it. I hope this works. Right, here's the old clamp. So I've opened it up right up. Put this over the cable there. What I then need to do is crimp these two shut. One. Different angles, so it does, the little jaws do actually shut down, and then just squash the cable flat. I'm going to straighten this up a little bit. Right, well, in theory that's as per original. Now the other thing I want to do as well is that because the new cable doesn't have the plastic outer sleeve as per the original, the clip, so the halfway P-clip, obviously is too big. What I've done is I've got a bit of rubber tube, put a slit down it, and then when I screw that in place, that will actually help to grip the cable better. Through the hole. Right, that's the cable down in position. There's a rubber bung which needs to go through, partly through. Let's pull the other cable up. I've left the pulley off because the cable's got to go up there first. So it goes up through the hole at the end. I've got to find the little sprung loaded hole at the end. Into the ratchet handle, I'll find it. There it is. Push the cable into it, turn the handle round, push the cable down there. Right, that's kind of in position. Get the little pulley wheel back in, make sure the cable's on the right place. Pin through the middle, tap. Right, a little R clip in the end, clip that over, and now let's get that bolted in. Okay, underneath now, the other end of the cable. That simply goes into the bracket like so on the rear gearbox cross member, and then that horseshoe clip pushes up into there. I've slackened off the adjusting nut. There's a lock nut up here, or both sides if you like, taking a bit more pressure off. I'll get the cable through that hole there. And fit on that little half moon nut onto the end of the cable there, which hold it in place. I'm going to do it up about halfway, or maybe a little bit less than halfway. Right, that should about do for the moment. So what I now want to do is tighten this up, this little nut here, which pulls this whole section tight. There's quite a lot of thread along here, so this may need to be moved along. I don't want any pressure on the back wheels, but I want the cable to be tight nonetheless. So I'll start tightening. And the cables are quite tight now. I can just check by putting my foot on the back wheel, see if I can turn it. Yeah, still turning it, so that's okay. What I'm going to do now is pull the handbrake handle on and see if the wheels lock. Right, had a quick try on the handbrake on the actual handle. With it on, I couldn't turn the back wheels, so it feels really good. There's a little bit of slack in the ends of the cable. I wonder if I can bring that up a little bit. Right, that all seems pretty good. I'm going to tighten up this lock nut here. Right, that's nice and tight. What I'll do is I'll give it a road test later and see if it holds on the hill, etc. And if it's not, I can tighten it up, and if it's I feel that there's a little bit of drag, I can slacken it off, but otherwise we're all there. The last thing I want to do is attach this clip. Obviously that's currently resting on the exhaust, which won't be any good. I'm going to put on the little rubber sleeve that I made. On the clip. Bolt that into place. Got the carpet back in place. Everything's fitted. It's on, turn it, and that's off. So I reckon that'll probably do the job.